My name is Ryan. I've been married to my wife Sarah for 5 years now. Um, Sarah was diagnosed with endometriosis when she was 18 years old. I first witnessed the signs of, or the symptoms and the effects of endometriosis sometime around the summer of 2010, so about 7 years ago. That night I was woken up by many phone calls and texts saying that she needed to go to the hospital. I got there to see her in agonizing and debilitating pain, um, hardly able to walk, and I had to help her get to my car and then bring her to the hospital, and then spent, I want to say, somewhere around 5 hours in the ER while they were trying to get her pain managed and under control. Honestly, when I first um, found out my wife had endometriosis, we weren't even dating at the time, and I really didn't know what to think. I had never heard of it. I guess probably in my mind I was like, well, that must suck. Like I really didn't know what to make of it. I had no idea what to expect, or truly how controlling it really was over her. That first night that I witnessed it, however, was, and honestly, for probably a long time after, every time I witnessed something similar, um, it was just it just it makes you take a step back. Like you're just shocked. You have no idea what to do. You know nothing you can do or say is going to help. You feel very helpless, very alone, um, and you just feel bad that you can't. There's nothing you can do to um, to stop it or to make it better. She definitely gets defeated at times. I mean, it's understandable. I mean, with the amount she goes through and everyday pain compared to even like her really bad flare ups, it would be hard not to. Um, and honestly, as her husband, I'm not perfect either, and I can be honestly. Sometimes what goes through my mind is, well, if you're the one going through this battle, you're the one who has to fight it, and I constantly have to kind of tell myself, sometimes you do have to be there to support her and to get her back on track because sometimes I feel like, well, how do you expect me to continue and to help you when you don't want to help yourself, or when you're giving up, how do you want me to not give up for you? This is your battle that I'm helping you with. Um, but then again, I have to remind myself that who wouldn't get defeated, going through this constantly nonstop. So it's kind of like an inner battle that I have to have with myself, um, which just complicates a lot of things, especially when you add in all that she is going through. So over the 7 years I've known my wife, we've been to the ER over 15, 20 times. And we kind of learn the routine. They always do steps one, step two, step three. And we're from a small town, small um, ER, and the ER doctor eventually gotten to know Sarah and I, and they kind of like to skip ahead now to just right to the step three. And this one time, actually fairly recently, I've never seen her pain this bad. Usually, when they get to step three, it's a really very high dose narcotic that usually puts her right to sleep, relaxes her, calms her, and usually one dose, sometimes two doses of that, she's good to go. And then she's kind of out of it for a day or two, but it really subsides the pain. And this time in particular, I didn't know really what to do. The doctors didn't know really what to do. It was bad. They, jumped right to step three, and they gave her one dose of it. And within 3 minutes, I would say, she was screaming in pain for the nurse. Gave her a second dose of it. Same thing. They went up to 4 times. They gave her this medicine. The same medicine that usually takes half a dose. to get her to where she needs to be. It's a very strong narcotic. And she was now 4 times, and she still had not had any relief from the pain more than a couple minutes. We were in the ER that night, probably 6 or 7 hours. Not the longest we've been in the ER before, but this one was very, very, it just stood out because there was nothing the doctors could do, the nurses could do until the flare up went away. They tried the best to manage it, the best they could, but it just, nothing seemed to work in that particular day. Not at all. Again, like, I said earlier, I really didn't have any expectations going into it. Um, I'd never heard of it. She tried to explain it to me what it was, and I really just didn't pick up on the severity of it until I saw it that first time, and really not until I seen it become a constant thing that she was battling on a regular basis. That's when I kind of got a better picture as to what it is that she's dealing with. There's no question. Um, and it would be kind of hard not to become some sort of callous. Um, Being with someone this long, seeing it as much as you've seen it, nothing really surprises me anymore. Um, I wish I could be more supportive at times. I wish I wasn't so callous, so harsh. Um, but sometimes I feel like that just comes with the territory. You're with someone for that long, you've seen everything, you've witnessed everything. You feel bad they're going through it, but there comes a point when you're just like, all right, so we're gonna go to the ER. We're gonna spend a couple hours in the ER. You're gonna get some medicine. We're gonna go home. In a week, you'll be fine. It kind of turns to be like a routine. And like with all routines, you just become used to it. You become immune to the some of the emotional um, parts of it. And it sounds really um, disingenuous or for lack of a better term, cold. Um, but I mean that it kind of it is what it is as far as is that we're all imperfect, and that's just part of the. For me, it just kind of comes with the territory of being with someone for this long, and I try to kind of push through that and not um, let myself be so calloused. But it's a battle for me, um, and I think part of it also it can be a defense mechanism for me. You know, I can't imagine where I would be right now. I can't imagine what my mental or emotional state would be right now if every single time I had to help my wife when she was in pain or bring my wife to the ER, if my reaction was that of the first time I ever saw it. That would just be too draining, too emotionally distressing to handle and to deal with. I think my biggest struggle is in a way a lack of freedom. Um, everything has to have a plan. If we go somewhere, everything has to have a plan, a backup plan. What if a cyst bursts? What if she has to go to the hospital? Making plans is hard. If I want to go hang out with a bunch of my friends, I know that any plans I make is always up in the air based on how she's doing. I might have to be there to take care of her. I might have to be there to help her, bring her to the hospital, whatever it may be. Even if it's not a hospital visit that she needs, I might just have to stay home. I might have to help her, and that for an adult, who is independent, who has his own life, a part of with his wife, um, that is hard. Knowing that if maybe I'm in the middle of my plans, maybe I'm going and I'm visiting with friends, knowing that at any given moment I might have to leave. I might have to say, all right, guys, I'm done. It's hard. It's hard to deal with. It's hard to always have to just pack up and go and say, yep, I'm gonna put what I want on the back burner because my wife needs me at the time, and that it's something I do. It's something that anyone who's married or in a relationship with someone with endometriosis has to do. But it doesn't make it any easier to know that is kind of your obligation. Absolutely. And they don't. a lot of my friends, they kind of know what's going on. They kind of have an idea, but we've also tried keeping a lot of it from them. Like, it's not their battle to fight. It's not their concern. So they are in the dark quite a bit as far as like what I have to do, what Sarah goes through. Um, so if I'm visiting, if I'm hanging out with a bunch or group of friends and I have to leave, and they say, "What? I don't understand why she just because she's sick, she needs you." Like, I don't get that. I don't understand that. And it's until you witness it, until you experience it firsthand, and you're in a relationship with that person, um, it can be very hard. It can be very difficult for them to kind of comprehend, understand um, the situation that you're in. Um, and that can be very frustrating for me at times because I just kind of just want to be like, just take my word for it. Like, I just gotta do it. I gotta go take care of my wife. Um, so yeah, it can, there absolutely is the misunderstanding, the misconceptions as to what I deal with, what's going on. Um, and especially when you're dealing with endometriosis, which is an illness that a lot of people could call the invisible illness. My wife looks fine. When my wife is out hanging out with friends with me, she looks fine. There's nothing visibly wrong with her. So that also makes it kind of hard for outsiders to kind of look in with an impartial view and kind of listen, understand what it is that my wife and I are going through and what we're dealing with. I don't like using the word like always and never, um, because the only time you can use that is to say, you can never always know. I would say there's a good high percentage that I know when she's in pain or she's dealing with something. I know when she's not. Um, she's not kind of in her normal frame of mind, normal mood. There's a lot of tells that she gives, even subconsciously, that just kind of lets me know. All right, she's having a rough go at it. A lot of times I try to ignore it, and not in a disrespectful way or in a way of like I don't care, but I know like if I was in her shoes, I would want to try to be as normal as possible, to be as, you know, not affected by this illness as possible. So I try to, unless she's like calling out, like she needs my help, she needs me at that moment in time, I'll kind of let her, if she grimaces in pain or if she kind of winces, or whatever it is she's doing at the time, a lot of times I'll just let it slide, let it go, ignore it, try to keep talking to her about whatever we're doing at the time, acting like I don't notice it, just to kind of make her feel better, make her feel a little bit as normal as possible, knowing that she's going through what she's going through, um, and to just kind of move past it, so that way she can kind of just try to be as normal as possible time. But yeah, I would say a good majority of the time I know whether she's in pain, whether she says it or not. There's no question that it definitely changes who you are as a person. I can't necessarily speak firsthand as to like who my wife was before endo, because I didn't know her before she was diagnosed with endo. Um, but I mean, I definitely know that it definitely changes who you are. It doesn't just make the husband calloused. It definitely makes her callous. Sometimes it makes her callous towards other people. Someone's is sick, has a cold. There's not a whole lot of sympathy coming from her, um, because what she has to go through every day. I feel like in her mind it's just like, well, who cares? You have the sniffles, you have a cough. Like, that's just kind of how I see it, how I view it. Um, it definitely makes them a little bit colder, a little bit more less likely to kind of be sympathetic just because of what she's going through. Understandably so. It's completely, it's rational. It's understandable. Um, but it's unfortunate, that it does change you, um, in so many ways. But it also makes her stronger. It makes her more equipped to deal with other issues that come along because, in all honesty, she's been going through this for 11 years now. Like, she's seen it all. She's been through it all. So, it does make her stronger as well.